Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Roger Jackson is a marketing expert and the founder of Shopper Intelligence and SenseCheck. He says that if you're feeling a bit shy at a networking event, look out for the other shy person in the room. There's bound to be at least one. And go over and introduce yourself. You might find that they're feeling even more shy than you are. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Roger.
Delighted to be here.
Now, your current business is all about marketing and market research, but let's go back in time a bit first. Have you always worked in that kind of field? What was your first job, Roger?
Well, my very first job was to be the student campaign leader of the Student Industrial Society. But unless you were around in the 1980s and you were a student, I probably couldn't explain that in less than 20 minutes. But I started my professional career as a marketing graduate in Unilever. So I did the classical consumer goods marketing route in the early years. So yes, I guess I've been in marketing one way or another all my career.
Yeah, and what was it that drew you to that initially?
Well, I was studying chemistry, and I remember going to careers fairs and thinking this marketing thing, which I'd never really heard of, but it sounded deeply intriguing and much more fun than the science stuff I was doing. And I pretty much decided I wasn't ever going to be a scientist, mainly because I just didn't have the patience and diligence that scientists need. Plus, my maths was, compared with many chemists, wasn't really up to it. So, marketing seemed great. And they welcome scientists because I guess they think, well, you've got a degree of logic in the way you go about things. And
Yeah, I guess you can be analytical about things.
It seems to be, of all the sciences, that chemistry is the one that has a balance of sort of its own creativity and mathematics built into it.
Yeah. And so were you right? Was it more fun? Has marketing been more fun than chemistry?
I can't benchmark it. I'm a benchmarking person at heart, but of course you never get to compare against the other paths you could have taken. So who knows? But it's been great, so I'm not going to complain.
So tell me a bit about Shopper Intelligence first. How did you come to found that?
It's a story of kind of opportunity meets experience, I suppose, because I had been doing consulting work, having left the world of CPG. I started my own consulting firm and ended up in Australia because I wanted to see the world. And ended up with a slight no client, empty desk, what do I do kind of problem. And I hit upon a benchmarking study as being the way to get engaged with clients. And 4 or 5 years later, that whole experience morphed into the thing that we now call Shopper Intelligence. A lot of baby steps, but I guess in the end you need to find as a founder the right formula, the right product that hits a chord and that has the real opportunity, and only real life experience teaches you one way or the other. But this is the thing that worked. We started in Australia and we've been going for 16 years and doing exactly this, and now it's in lots of different countries. So I guess proof of the pudding was in the eating.
Yeah. So what does it do? What does Shopper Intelligence help people to find out?
Well, there's a lot of data in the consumer goods market, a huge amount of data that's collected through transactions. Every time you beep something through the till, you create data. So a vast amount of data that tells consumer goods companies and the people they work with, i.e. the supermarkets, kind of what's going on. And from that, they work together on plans. So if you're Kellogg's and you're a Sainsbury's, for example, you'll be working together on how to do better with breakfast cereals. And you need data to fuel that conversation. But the bit that I was working on in my consultancy days was trying to figure out where growth was going to come from. And from that, you need to understand a lot more about what shoppers really thought. And we used to commission market research to do just that. So we'd have to go and talk to shoppers and ask them things. It was no good just measuring what they bought. We had to ask them questions. But until we developed Shopper Intelligence, everyone had to do their own piece of research, which was very time consuming, very expensive. So I thought to myself, why don't we do it as a big industry program, and then we can sell subscriptions to that. So we measure all the categories in the store with shoppers, and we then provide that data to both manufacturers and retailers to tell them really the shopper point of view on what's going on in the store. And that helps them work together, it helps them separately, and it costs a lot less money and it takes a lot less time. So
that sounds like a really huge package that you've got there. So what kind of difference does your work make for the supermarkets and the manufacturers?
I think it at one level it democratizes those kinds of insights. So we now it's much easier for people to understand what shoppers want and what they think. So it's made that more available. So hopefully better decisions are being made. But it certainly saves a lot of time and money for companies that are constantly trying to improve their margins and do more with less. So in a way, we're doing the right thing at the right time, because there's nothing industries value more these days than a way to save some money. But I think if you put yourself in the shoes of the shopper, hopefully the industry is doing slightly more of the things the shopper really wants, and that can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So shopper intelligence is very much for the kind of the big players. So let's talk about your other product that you have now, which is Sense Check. What is Sense Check?
Well, it's completely different. I mean, there is almost no relationship, except it's born out of the experience I had creating a business. So it's trying to tackle the challenges of a startup, particularly one in B2B, because obviously with shopper intelligence, I sell to big companies. And the problem that you have with your communication and getting great marketing to work for you, most small companies don't have the resources to do lots of market research and get really expensive advertising agencies or consultancies on board. They wrestle with their own marketing, and I was the owner of the business and I kind of did the marketing, right? You know, it wasn't anybody else to do it. Often you don't hire a marketing person till quite late on, and if you do, you only hire one. So the whole world of small business is a bit, we call it like a hothouse, which creates a sort of bubble effect. So you're trapped in your own world, thinking, living, breathing, eating your product 24/7. And that immersion puts great big blinkers on you when you try and communicate it to the outside world. What SenseCheck was a really low cost and pragmatic approach that said, well, the very least what we can do is help each other. So who can give you feedback on your marketing to help you improve it? Well, your customers could, but I'm not going to phone up Unilever and ask for their opinion about my ad. That time's too precious, even if they took my call. But I can ask other marketing people in other businesses whether my advert communicates the right thing. So the SenseCheck idea is a bit like a let's help each other concept. So we signed up initially about 100 marketing people. They've all got more than 10 years experience, and they're willing to give back and help other small businesses. So the essence is, you have a piece of marketing, you want to know how well it's working, you give it to the panel, and 5 of those people will review it and tell you what they think. And because they're not immersed in your bubble and they're completely unbiased and they've got no relationship to preserve or anything, they will tell you how well it's really working. And believe you me, that's quite impactful. So it's a sort of let's help small business with their marketing in a very pragmatic and very low cost way, in a way I don't think anyone's really tried before. We say it's a bit like the phone a friend for small business marketing, and I haven't got a better description, but it's helping you out when I think we all just get far too close to things.
So who do you find is using the SenseCheck service? What kinds of businesses?
It's an incredible range. You know, we've had people literally starting out on the journey. There's somebody who was setting up a new counselling business, someone who was setting up a yoga studio, in fact, and then we've had quite a few B2B people testing their websites, people selling software, that kind of stuff. Mostly it's people who are really at the rough and tough early stages of a business, and you know, you can make some huge mistakes if you don't get feedback, and the general response has been really positive. Like, you know, I get people saying to me, wow, that was just so helpful, I can't believe how much I learned, or you spotted things that I just simply didn't see, or I'd been thinking that but I had no verification, so that gives me a lot of confidence. You know, it's that sense that people are really wrestling on their own. And we've all been there, right? You start up on your own, and in the first year or two, it's a heck of a wrestle.
Yeah.
And marketing's where it all comes together to have a bunch of really experienced people just giving you that sort of completely independent advice. And it's only like a paragraph, so it's not like they're going to solve your business problems for you or tell you what to do. The beauty of this is that they're just giving you that really fresh point of view on how you're going to communicate with the outside world. So yes, I mean it's a challenge, because I guess no one's done this before. It's a new idea, so I'm not sure people are thinking about it. And we have our own marketing problem, because we have to tell people it exists. So
Yes.
we are living the SenseCheck experience, because sometimes I don't know quite how to explain it to people either.
Yeah. So how long has it been going, and how many people have used the service?
Oh, we've had hundreds of people go through it, but that's a fraction of what we want. I mean, I worked out at one point there's something like 7 million businesses in the UK
Wow.
who could use this. So a couple of hundred really isn't going to be where we're going to end up. And we've been going for a couple of years, although I would say, I'll be honest, the first year or so we really weren't doing it properly. We had a terrible website. We made a lot of the mistakes a lot of companies do, I think, and we've got better over time. But wouldn't it be wonderful if rather than spending 2 years wrestling and spending all that money, you could get it right faster? And I guess that's the point of what we do. We did not have a feedback loop for SenseCheck itself
Yeah.
to ask people how well we're communicating. We felt we couldn't use our own service for our own purposes. That was a bit cheeky, although I wish I had got somebody to give me feedback. So yeah, we're living the problem. But every month we get more traffic from our website. We get more people signing up for the free trial, and fingers crossed it keeps on growing.
Yeah. So what kinds of things can business owners get feedback on? Website content, presumably, but other things as well?
Well, the beauty of this is it's human beings. So long as you can show them something they'll understand, you could get a business plan reviewed as long as it's on a page. We do say keep it to a page, a brand name, a logo, a LinkedIn post. It's almost nothing you couldn't get checked because it's people. And as long as you explain what it is you're showing them and what you want them to answer, they will do that. So I think you could even say, look, I'm even thinking of starting a business. What do you think of this idea? Or what do you think of my business name? All those kinds of decisions that you wrestle with, you could get some feedback on. So I think the most common thing is a web page, because I think that's how a lot of businesses present themselves to the world. So, and in fact, the thing on the website we offer as a free trial is we'll just give you feedback on your current website. We'll just start with that. But I think any element of marketing, and what I hope is it becomes habitual that, once you get the hang of getting feedback, why wouldn't you get this check? I mean, you can join on a membership basis and pay a lot less per check. So it gets to quite an affordable price where I'm hoping it becomes sort of part of the routine.
Yeah. So how many experts do you have on board, and how does it work from their point of view?
It's over 100 now. We're getting more every day. They love it. But a couple of reasons. Honestly, talking to a lot of them, they actually quite like it. It's quite enjoyable seeing what other people are doing and helping other people. There's a sort of a feeling like I like to give back. I like to help people. So there's that part of it. But then there's two other commercial things. One is that we share half the fees with the panel. So at the end of the year, they get a thank you check, which is nice, but it's not going to make anybody rich, I don't think. But it's pro rata to the number of views they do. And the other thing is the large majority of them are actually independent advisors and consultants. So they're kind of hoping that if they give helpful feedback, somebody might pick up the phone and give them a call. And that's available to a user. So if someone gives you feedback, you go, that person seems really smart, I'm going to give them a bell. You can do that. And then you click a button and the number's given to you.
Yeah.
They can't call you, you can call them. So I think it's a way of connecting independent consultants to would-be small business clients, which I don't think there's another way to do.
Yeah, yeah. So what kind of mistakes do you think people, or small business owners in particular, are making with their marketing?
Oh, the biggest one, and I do it all the time, is you just talk about yourself and not about the customer. You're so obsessed, and listen to me on this podcast, going on about how marvellous SenseCheck is and how wonderful Shopper Intelligence is. This is the problem. They're like our children, aren't they? We just love them to bits. And in the end, you've got to remember that the reason you're in business, or the reason anybody buys your product, is because you help them with what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, SenseCheck is about helping small business owners get their marketing right and grow their business and not make mistakes. It's not about the intrinsic nature of the product. And I think that's what I see a lot. I see so many pieces of marketing come through. Remember I mentioned the lady who set up a yoga studio. She did a lovely one-page flyer that she was going to give around the community, and it was really eloquent about her yoga. Clearly, she was very passionate about it, explained the techniques, explained how good it was, explained where it came from, its ethos, all this kind of stuff. But the feedback she got was, well, you're not explaining what anybody gets from the yoga. So, you leave a class, how do you feel different? And she wrote back and she said, I just thought people know that. It's like, well, then I realised they don't, because I don't tell them. And it's that simple thing of, we often don't talk about not just the benefits, but how it makes your life better. Why should you make this effort? Why should you buy something else in a complicated, busy world where you probably already have 1,000 things to worry about? You have to show how you make people's lives better and how easy it's going to be. And I think that's the thing that so many companies miss, and it's because they're just immersed in that bubble.
Yeah, just too close to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's have a little chat about networking now then. How do you like to network for your businesses?
Oh, I'm an inveterate networker. I mean, for Shopper Intelligence, there's lots of industry conferences around the world that I go to. So lots of big shows in America where you can have a booth or not have a booth. They call them booths there. And you wander around. And my fun thing is I often have 3 breakfasts and 3 lunches and 3 dinners, because it's only when you sit down next to people and you eat something that you really get chatting. And it's
Yeah.
very low sort of threat way of having a chat with someone. So the coffee breaks and the meal breaks are great for meeting people. People run a mile rather than come to your booth because they think you're going to try and sell them something. Who knew? But chatting to people, finding out about them as human beings is the way to go. SenseCheck is a little bit more difficult because it's small business land, and there's lots of kind of B2B expos, and I do join some online things where small business owners get together and kind of talk about things. I'm in a couple of business owners networking groups as well, which is more about me sharing my problems with them and them with me. So it's a sort of support group. So quite a range of things, really.
And is it something that you would encourage small businesses that are just starting out to do?
I think it's one of those things that if you're selling a service direct to small business, I guess it's very tangible. But on the other hand, selling to people is always uncomfortable for everybody involved. I think the value I get from it is more just the psychological support of just chatting to other people who can give me some advice or hints, or I just learn from their problems and their issues. It's much more soft. But psychologically, it's really important because it can get lonely and it can get stressful. And just realizing that everyone's wrestling with the same kind of things could be really quite therapeutic. And of course, you may make friends. The idea that, there's social life is social life and work is work, I think breaks down in small business life.
Yeah.
I think actually you make friends with the people
Yeah.
you deal with. So I
Yeah.
think it's very good at a human level.
Yeah, absolutely. Is networking something that you've always done, when back in your employed days, or only something you've done since you've been running your own businesses?
I think if you work for a big company, it says Unilever or Kraft Foods on your business card. I think you're probably quite big headed, and you think, look, the world's going to beat a path to my door. I don't need to network. I mean, you network internally. There's lots of kind of company events where you go to talk to the great and the good to make sure they know your name. So I guess it becomes more of an internal thing. Externally, I think not so much. I don't think that's the mindset of a big corporation. Probably should be, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, yeah. And have you got any tips about networking you'd like to share with other business owners?
I probably already shared it. Really, it's like never do the selling thing. It doesn't work. It never will work. I think you've just got to engage and find something interesting with someone that you meet, and find a point of common interest and talk about that. The business bit will follow as night follows day, but you can't start with, hey, I'm Roger, I help with marketing, tell me about your marketing problems. People will just
No.
run the mile, won't they?
Yeah.
So I think people can sniff. I read a book, quite interesting book recently, which talked about the anti-persuasion radar that we all have. So the idea is, as soon as somebody comes up, it goes off on full throttle, like beep 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 beep, warning warning, someone's going to sell you something, and that's just human nature, right? So there's no point. It's uncomfortable. It's never going to help. Whereas I think as human beings, we're communal animals and we're relationship people. The other thing is, if you're shy, is look around and spot the other shy person, because there's going to be one, and often
Yeah.
they're even more shy than you are.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element, if you're shy, help the other shy person out. Be the slightly less shy person and go up and say, hello, I find these things really uncomfortable. How do you feel? It's a great starter.
Yeah. And I like what you said earlier on about having 3 breakfasts and 3 lunches, because often it is, over a sandwich or something, that is when you get talking to people, and in a non-threatening environment then, isn't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, it's the whole thing is horribly artificial. These sort of events can be just uncomfortable for everybody. I think you just realise it's the same for everybody. Everybody feels uncomfortable, and you're in a good place then.
Yeah. Yeah. So my final question then, Roger, if people are interested in finding out more about you and your business, what's the best place for them to find you?
I'm a bit of a LinkedIn aficionado, so if you look up Roger Jackson and Shopper Intelligence on LinkedIn, you will find me, I promise. But yeah, the website's there, shopperintelligence.com, if you're interested in shopping research. And if SenseCheck, you think you might be able to get some help on some marketing stuff, it's sensecheck.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for being my guest. I really enjoyed our conversation, Roger.
I've enjoyed it too. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.